Hello, welcome to the Affaircare podcast. My name's Cindy Taylor. I'm one of the co-founders here of Affaircare, and my dear hubby, David, is behind the scenes, behind the camera. This week we will be talking about the 180. The 180 is a technique that was first described, if you will, by Michelle Weiner Davis, who is one of our colleagues in the infidelity industry. She does divorce busting, she calls it. We'll add the link for you right here. And so the 180 is a list basically of things that you would do or not do and whatnot. And it's often something that either we recommend to people or that is recommended at the beginning of when an affair is happening. Just to kind of reiterate, the 180 can be used for either recovery from infidelity that ends in divorce or reconciliation that ends with the marriage being saved. The gist of the technique is that, what you've been doing in your marriage is not working. Well, whatever the reasoning, what you were doing in the affair before, or in the marriage before, has resulted in an affair. So that is clearly not working. And if you do not change and you keep things the way they are, then the likelihood that your marriage would stay a mess is about 100%. Instead, what you want to do is a 180-degree turn from what you've been doing. Think of it like a U-turn. You're doing this right down here, and you want a 360 would be all the way around. You want to just turn and do the exact opposite of what you've been doing. So it's like a U-turn. That's our terminology. We call it do the U-turn, right? Because the way you've been acting, or also sometimes the way you might naturally think to act, is actually entirely incorrect and counterintuitive. Let's kind of look at the 180 and consider a couple examples. For example, when somebody first finds out that their spouse is cheating, a very typical reaction would be to cry about it quite a lot, beg them to stay, beg them to come back to the marriage and love you, and kind of follow them around with those big old puppy dog eyes pointing, we had some good moments, like that, right? It's kind of a typical response. The loyal spouse sort of is entering a contest that's the pick me contest. Pick me. That's, I think, like the natural response that people would do, but just so you know, that typical response is actually entirely counterproductive. You're not going to make your disloyal spouse want to love you by being a begging kind of person. You're going to look weak. You're going to look like a wimp that has no self-worth because you let somebody cheat on you and accepted it. It probably is going to be irritating to have you follow them around with puppy dog eyes. If you're entering the pick me contest and you're buying them content, they're going to think, too little too late, bub, get out of here. So it's going to be the result of your actions is probably going to be actually the opposite of what you'd like. And rather than encouraging them to think of the positive things in the marriage and to look at you with some respect and love you again, it's probably going to react in, the reaction from the disloyal is going to be the exact opposite. Namely, they're going to be irritated with you, they're going to want you to stop following them around, they're going to look at you with no respect, that kind of thing. So, what do? You do the opposite. You do a U-turn. This is where the 180 comes in. Imagine, here's a 180 scenario. So, you find out that your spouse is cheating. And rather than crying and begging begging them to love you and following them around with the big puppy eyes like that, imagine what would happen if you said, I've decided to stop all this crying and begging. If you don't love me, so be it. I do feel sad. That's your choice, and I'm perfectly capable of carrying on and finding somebody who does appreciate what I have to offer. So good luck, and bye-bye now. Here's your stuff. The door's right there. And then they carried on like everything was fine. Imagine, in that kind of an instance, first thing, I can guarantee you that the disloyal spouse would be shocked. Because in their mind, what they're thinking is they had justified what was going on, and you were this bad guy, and they looked at all your possible, kind of minimized all the good side and maximized all your bad side, and like that, right? And they're envisioning that they're going to tell you they're having an affair, or you find out that they're having an affair, and there's going to be this big blow up, this big fight, and you're going to be desperate to have them, and then they're going to have kind of two people vying for their affection, so to speak. And imagine, it'll shock them that you're like, I am extremely sad that that's your choice, but it's your choice. Bye now. They're going to see you as somebody who has some strength, some personal backbone. And if nothing else, that will give them, like a little shock of respect. And likewise, if you're not following around after them and begging with the puppy dog eyes and whatnot, they're going to see some personal strength in you. They're going to see maybe somebody who has some self-worth. I'm worth more than to just let somebody be unfaithful to me. And you were the one who made the promise, and you were the one who broke it, so you get to go. Bye-bye now. So that's, a little example of what the 180 is all about. Now that we've kind of talked about it, you can see how the 180 it's just basically a direct U-turn of what you might normally think to do. So as let's say affair goes on and it turns into a separation, rather than constantly calling them, "Are you okay?" trying to text, sending them little love notes, do 180 degree, do the U-turn and do exactly the opposite of that. If they want to be off and be alone to mess with their lover, let them go. And what'll happen is you think maybe in your head, well, how will they ever know that they can come back? It's pretty easy. You pick one little summary statement, and every time they do text you or call, or they call you, then you answer and you say, "Oh, are you ready to give up your affair now? You're not? Well, bye-bye now. Talk to me when you're ready." Click. And they'll know that there is a way that they could get back to you. It would be by ending the affair. Likewise, you're also sending them the message that you're not going to just accept infidelity in your marriage, that is not acceptable to you, that you will not put up with it. You don't have to rush necessarily to divorce or filing or any of that, but you just are letting them know with your actions that that's not acceptable to you, and you're not going to enter a pick-me contest, because they made a vow in front of God and others to pick you. And if they want to break their vow, that's their business, but you're not going to get into this contest. So when we look at the actual things that are in the 180, these are things that are applicable not only when you very first discover, but also as time goes on. So for example, the first couple of them, I'm going to just read them off the list. And here, I'm going to put right here the link to our Affaircare page that has the 180. So I'll read the first couple of them. It says, "Do not pursue, reason, chase, beg, plead, or implore." And we just talked about that kind of an instance where you're kind of following along after them with puppy dog eyes. They have to want to stop, so you can't stop them. And I'm not saying let them go sure, go ahead, go do what you want. It's more like, I'm not having that in my life, but I can't stop you, because otherwise you're controlling them. Okay. No frequent phone calls. This is appropriate for both, right when you first discover and a little bit after, if you're getting into a separation. Don't be the one who's frequently calling them, "How are you? What are you doing?" Because that makes you the one pursuing them. And where you want to be is, "I'm fine without you," and they call you, and they're the one pursuing you, and then you say, "Oh, sorry, I can't talk. I'm off to I have an appointment. I'll call you when I'm done." Click. You know what I mean? So that you're letting them know that you have a life, and you can't. It hurts you, but you can be okay without them, and you're carrying on. Number 3, do not point out good points in the marriage. That may sound counterproductive, but here's why. They were in the marriage. They know what the good points were. And they especially know some of the things that may have been good points for you may not have been good points for them. So if you're just constantly going over all this good stuff, that's going to conflict with what they're thinking, because it may not have been good for them and they didn't say anything to you. So you don't know. Also, that's jumping into that contest of pick me, pick me. And what you want them to do is to realize what they're doing was wrong, sin, admit it to themselves, admit it to God, and then come work it out with you. So let them figure that out. And honestly, in a weird way, part of the 180 is something like this. I actually have enough faith in you as an adult that you will be able to figure this out, and that you will have the courage to do the right thing. You have to have a little faith in your disloyal spouse, oddly enough. So I'm just saying that's part of this technique. Do not encourage talk about the future. Again, a lot of people keep doing push and push and push. Can we have a relationship talk? And what they think, I think in their head, is something like, if we could only talk about this, we could work it all out, and then everything could go back to normal. Right? I think that's what they think in their head. But that isn't really what happens. You push and push for this relationship talk, and then by then they're so almost already angry that you've pushed and pushed and pushed for the talk, and then the talk doesn't go like they had kind of hoped or thought it might, and then everything turns into and it just actually turns it worse. So just don't go there. If you want to talk about the future, talk with other friends or family about you are going to choose to do. And that may or may not include your spouse if they choose to come with you or not. Do not ask for reassurances, buy gifts, schedule dates together. These are number 7, 8, and 9. Here again, what you're saying is a lot of times people follow along and they're like, kind of like begging for love, basically. And you have to understand, begging for love or trying to buy it off like that, that is not going to put across the image that you're an attractive person, that there's somebody that they want to go to. So what you want to do is, if you need reassurance, turn to someone that's like within your own family, such as a sibling or a parent or that kind of thing. Do some own self-soothing. If you need some techniques for that, just let me know. Take yourself out on dates or buy yourself little gifts. And the idea here is not to be selfish, but rather to say, I will take care of myself in a caring way until my spouse, has had time to figure out the error of their ways, if that makes sense. So if you continue on, the 180 is actually a whole list, 34 things. I will leave it to you to read the whole thing. But what you want to do is get yourself in the mindset that you are not doing this list to manipulate your spouse into responding to you. You're not doing this to make your spouse come back to the marriage. You're not doing this to control them in any kind of... You do the 180 list for yourself. And the reason you do it is because when you back off, it helps save your own sanity. It helps you to think a little bit more clearly because you're not involved in that roller coaster of drama. That is an affair. And it helps you protect yourself and the family and shelter them in a way that's like, I will preserve this as long as I can until the disloyal decides 100% that they're going to destroy it, in which case there will still be as much as possible left for it. Okay? So that's number one. And the number two thing is that you have to realize that your spouse, your disloyal spouse, is going to see this new attitude, and they could react with a little jealousy or curiosity about what you're doing or whatever. But the message is not to do this to get them to do something. You're doing this for your own self, to detach. This tactic works simultaneously on you and on your disloyal spouse at the same time. For you, it helps you to sort of untangle some things where you had been a little too dependent on them. And for them, it helps them to realize that you are a person who respects yourself, that you have some value of you realize that you are a child of God, and you view yourself with some worth, and you expect them to behave with character and morals. So what will happen is it's like working on the both of you at once, but with number one above, the don't manipulate and whatnot, you're doing this list to improve yourself. And you put your focus there. You're improving yourself. And then let them do what they're going to do. They may continue in their sin, and you can't stop that. They may repent, and you hope for that. But meanwhile, while they're deciding what they're going to do, here's what you're going to do. You're going to work on bettering yourself, and wherever possible, protecting your family. So those are my thoughts for the 180. I thank you for joining our podcast as every week. We do them every Friday. And I hope that you will join us again next week. If you have any suggestions or thoughts or questions, please feel free to contact both myself or dear hubby at affaircare@gmail.com. As always, please come to you can catch the podcast on iTunes, on Stitcher, on our website, or on YouTube. So, all right, thank you so much. Hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.